Episode 327 of the TV Dudes, recorded April 7th, 2021. Women Rule. This week, the TV Dudes are talking about how women rule. Whether it's the ultimate badass Cherie from The Wall and Solar Opposites on Hulu, another memorable Cristin Milioti character in Hazel Green on HBO Max's Made for Love, or the plethora of amazing female comedians on Hysterical on Hulu. That's the focus for this week's episode. But first, I'm Randy.
I'm Les.
And I'm Nick.
And we're the TV Dudes. I was trying to figure out what the common thread this week was, and I was like, well, it's kind of that men are terrible. That's definitely the point of Hysterical, and to some extent the point of Made for Love. But Solar Opposites is really about how all humanity is terrible, and aliens are as well. And then I believe Nick supplied the women rule because their best character is Christina Hendricks playing Cherie, who I forgot was Christina Hendricks until I looked it up.
Yep.
Well, and really the thrust of that's a terrible no less the main theme of Hysterical is not supposed to be so much that men are terrible. It's that women are hysterically funny and manage to be professional comedians despite all of men's best efforts.
Yeah, it's crazy, and we'll definitely talk about that one. That was interesting. I've been following comedy for a long time, and to see this kind of stuff that was going on in the background when young, not at all woke Randy had no idea how terrible some of the comedians he loved were. You know,
I've never loved my membership to the He-Man's Women Haters Club more. Did I get that right? I haven't watched Little Rascals in a long time.
I feel like
Yes.
there was a bunch of double negatives in there, but I think I got the gist.
Yes.
I think it started with some double negatives anyway, so I'm not sure if I ended up on the right side of that.
So before we get to our weekly rundown, let's talk TV diaries.
The Diaries of the Television Dudes. Brought to you by only the finest cocaine wine.
And I'm going to start us off this week. I mostly just kind of kept up with the homeworks this week, but so I also kept up with the stuff that I've been binging. So in addition to the homework, I watched the latest episode of Invincible, latest episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, the last episode of Resident Alien for season 1, I think, which had a really good finale. Last 2 episodes of Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, which I forget how good that show is when I'm not watching it. And then I go back to it, I fall in love with it all over again. And then watched 2 more episodes of The Equalizer, which I'm still really enjoying, and started the season 3 binge of Happy Ending. So I'm 4 episodes into that. But also, Megan has never seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I was kind of in the mood for some comedy last week. So we binged 19 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I've now successfully hooked her on another Mike Schur show.
That's great.
19 episodes, keeping it light. I like it. You don't want to hit her with too much right away.
It was a heavy binge. We got all the way up through Tactical Village, which introduces Teddy.
I've talked to friends before about like how to get people into. I mean, because y'all had to get me into it way late. And like our Randy and I's mutual friend Cheryl got someone into it by showing them all the Doug Judy episodes.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, that's a pretty great way to run somebody through a handful with a thread, and then be able to follow it, but be curious enough about the changes in the other characters to want to see it.
For sure. And that was the thing, as I was watching it, we just watched it straight through. But I was like, I saw the next episode. We stopped, and then I saw the next episode was Halloween, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna fall more in love with the next episode. And then I saw the next episode with the Pontiac Bandit, and I'm like, oh, here's where you're gonna really fall in love with it. And I can tell where the episodes are. Like, I haven't seen them, but maybe once or twice, most of it. So a lot of it's still new or fresh to me to go back and rewatch. And watching the characters develop, it's interesting. Rosa at the beginning of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, she is using more of her real voice.
Yes, her voice changes.
Yeah, because she didn't put on that more gruff Rosa voice until really like halfway through the first season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of Stephanie Beatrice's personal life, she got to take that character with her on the whole journey of being bi. and
Yeah,
Rose's
yeah.
whole journey in that.
So Les, what was on your TV diary this week?
Let's see. This week, well, after last week, I went through and watched like one episode each or so of the Mighty Ducks cartoon, which I had to watch a couple episodes of because Nick and I talked about it on Patreon. It's just so weird. It is everything he said and more. Randy, you cannot. I can't stress enough how on top of all the strangeness that Nick described, the actual story structure of the first couple of episodes is entirely flashback told by Jim Belushi's character to who's the cop off Dennis
Cleghorn.
Franz. Yeah, so it's
Mhm.
Jim Belushi and Dennis Franz, and Jim Belushi's telling Franz the story of these ducks who he manages.
God is my witness. I don't know if the two of you are just pranking me right now.
It is worth watching. It is very great. Also, in IMDb and all of this stuff, there's a lot of DNA shared between all of these. Like writers off of Mutant Ninja Turtles wrote on almost every other cartoon you could like. Everybody worked on this type of show. So I also watched Skeleton Warriors, which I have not yet watched the YouTube video that is titled The Spectacular Failure of Skeleton Warriors, but I kind of want to now. Because holy crap, like this is a dense, amazing cartoon that I would have watched the fuck out of if I'd been the right age for it right then and it had been in front of me.
I think it has the same animation style as X-Men, the old 90s X-Men.
A little bit similar, yeah, or real similar. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the same company. It's got a cool setup and yeah, worth finding on YouTube. Also watched worth finding on YouTube Biker Mice from Mars first episode, which I've seen several times and I love.
The original where they're fighting the Plutonians, or the reboot or reboot / sequel where they're fighting the Catonians, Catonians.
The first one, the Plutonians, the
Plutonians, gotcha.
smelly lizard looking slugs, yeah, in skin suits, Limburger. Then I watched, of course, Elementary. Still watching through. There's a million seasons of that. Flash, which did a '90s episode this week and was terrible, just terrible. Like no one even Googled what years things were that they were referencing. It's just terrible. Like I could sit for an hour and go through all the ways that was a bad episode. Anyway, still watching it. So who's the sucker here? Supergirl, which was much better, has come back kind of crazy. I think this is their last season and they know it.
Yeah.
Wish Upon, horror movie, which is kind of a mess, but still fun. It's got Joey King and Ryan Felipe, I believe. Is the dad somehow. Anyway, he's just always going to be like a too scruffy high schooler. I don't know. Ryan Felipe looks like a kid all the time. John Oliver. Then I watched several episodes of a thing on Netflix called Worn. You may recognize it from the little screenshot of a leather codpiece thong thing. It's a documentary series about items of clothing, like the stories of clothing items. It's really well made. All the little animations and stuff are exceptional. It's just really well made, like American Life serial level good. But the codpiece, for example, is Tim Capullo, who is Tina Turner's sax player and the sexy sax guy from Lost Boys.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
Oh,
he,
all right.
like saxophones just stopped being a thing about the time Nirvana hit. Like they're not in rock music anymore, and he went from working all the time for 20 years to not working at all. And he had a drug problem for a minute and got himself back together and everything. And so it's a little bit of like, no, this is the leather codpiece that Tina Turner bought me when she was walking down the street and saw it in a window of a sex shop in Berlin and brought it, was like, you're wearing this on stage from here on out. And we toured for 20 years. Like it's just this crazy fucking story. And all of them are that great. Like whether it's like a Chinese woman wearing this yellow sweater to her dance class, or a guy getting out of prison and getting his first set of clothes from a Goodwill because all he's got are like sweats from prison. Like all the stories are great and just really well made. I also watched a play that I'll be interviewing the director of, White Rock Cliffs. It's a one-man play that was streamed online. One of the neatest things of this past year is that I've seen more live theater, quote unquote, than in the last couple of years of my life. Then, of course, the homework. And then I watched a couple episodes of Blue Mountain State, which is just a stank gross joke of a show. But Alan Ritchson, who was Hawk in Titans, is about to be Jack Reacher on Amazon. Is going to do Jack Ryan treatment to the Jack Reacher books. They're going to do a book a season, and they have apparently the one casting note that they followed, apparently, like the only thing they give a shit about this time was that he be physically as he is described in the book. Because the movies aren't bad, but Tom Cruise is half the size of Jack Reacher. Like in the book, the guy is described as like 6'5" and 250 pounds.
It's a bit of a Jack Reach to cast it.
Right? And it's so like,
so
I don't care.
Halfling.
Yeah, I don't give a shit how awesome Tom Cruise is at stunts, and he is awesome. It's not that character. It's and they've. What kills me is that they did exactly this with Tom Cruise in Lestat. And like, you've not learned shit. You can't put him in enough lifts to make this work.
Look,
so anyway,
Scientology is a hell of a drug, Les.
Right. So Alan Ritchson is going to be Jack Reacher, and so I went back and watched a couple episodes of Blue Mountain State, and I've been waiting for that guy to get his character moment. He's kind of like Brendan Fraser in that, like, comedy chops, giant leading man looking guy, can also weirdly sing. Just kind of been waiting for that, like, no man, you should get your Hugh Jackman Wolverine moment sometime. And it's not going to be Hawk. So let's see it be this Amazon.
Nick, what about you?
Oh, me? Well, I continued my watch of the Muppet Show, the original.
Where are you at on that? What season?
I'm still in. I think I've just hit season 2. I'm somewhere in the middle. I realize how thirsty Kermit is of just all the female stars. Like Florence Henderson was on, and a lot of that was just Kermit hitting on Mrs. Brady. Just I think he had a whole. I think the end one was like, oh yeah, I loved coming on Kermit. I especially loved our love scene, and it was like that was the whole joke, was that Florence Henderson said she could fuck a frog. That was the whole joke. And I forgot how adult some of the humor was for that original run. I watched half of Primal on HBO.
I think I've seen half of that as well.
Tartakovsky thing. I like it. I actually could use a little bit more dialogue, I think.
That's where I was too. I saw a lot of people talking about how much they loved how primal it was. How it's like, this caveman and it's all. But I found it to be a little, not dry, just kind of a little off-putting, I guess. I couldn't quite plug into it as a more or less just no dialogue thing. Also, that opening is super fucking dark.
Yeah, the problem I think with it is that without the dialogue, well, you normally assume something without dialogue would be very subtle in its storytelling, but it kind of goes the other way, in which everything is super obvious of the relationship between the T-Rex and the caveman, and they have to like really telegraph everything, including the backstory of the caveman, of his entire family dying, to the point where it's kind of funny, like it shouldn't be. Because it's like, it's so dark and over the top. You're like, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but this is hysterically over the top. I kept up with Invincible, caught up with John Oliver, and then I went back and because I'm back into the editing mode, I usually watch something that I've already watched, and that's an easy watch. So I watched all of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime on Hulu. I can tell by your vacant stares that you have no idea what that is.
I know what it is because every month I order from the previous catalog and I order manga. And every month we look at the Yen Press section and there are increasingly hilarious titles of manga. And one of them is That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. So I know this is an anime.
Yeah.
I'm aware of it because, Nick, I believe you've recommended it to me in just a vague, like, here's an anime you would probably enjoy.
Well, I think I recommended you, like, if you wanted something to put on while you're doing, like, it's a very conflict light show of, like, the premise is that this guy dies and reincarnates, and apparently the rules for reincarnation are like the last thoughts in your mind are how you reincarnate. So he thinks to himself, oh, I feel cold, and he gets like thermal fluctuation powers. He's like, oh god, I all this blood, like he got stabbed. So he's like, all this blood, I need that blood. And then suddenly the system builds him a body that doesn't need blood. So he becomes a slime. And he gets like this predator skill to where whatever he eats, he gets the skills of it. And I just like it because it's very, he becomes like a warlord on accident. Like, he saves a village of goblins from like wolves that are eating them. And he's like, well, I guess I'm not doing anything else, so yeah, I'll do that. And he like helps them out, kills a wolf, gets its intimidate skill, and yells at him like, okay, you all run away. And then the wolves don't run away, they bow to him. And it was like, oh wait, what are we doing? Oh, you just killed our alpha wolf, so you're the alpha now. Shit. Okay, well, I guess I'm in charge of not only this goblin village, but this wolf thing now. So, okay, and then he like builds a town, and now he needs materials, so he goes to the Dwarven Kingdom, and he accidentally gets into, he just accidentally gets involved in a lot of stuff to the point where there's like rumor mills of like, did you hear about this slime? Yeah, I hear that he ate a wolf. Like, oh, I heard that he is a wolf. Like, it's so funny of how when people meet him, they don't believe because he's such a nice guy, but he like has this reputation of super powerful, you know, monsters always live by the rule of whoever's the strongest leads. So he's just the strongest by default. I don't know. I like how easy of a watch it is. The conflict is like somehow huge, but yet not very, because he can solve a lot of the stuff. He's never in physical danger. He has like an invulnerable body. So it's just about how he's building this town and his new, you know, friends and how he has to take care of them because they start to worship him like a god. Like the goblins are like, hey, is it weird that we just let this guy like run shit now? And one of them's like, yeah, I don't know. Last week I was getting eaten by a wolf, and now one's my pet, and I'm wearing wool from it. So yeah, all hail the slime god, baby. Let's see how this rides.
I don't know why people say anime is weird.
Hey, I honestly, I'm still sold on this one just because at no point in all of that was any of his powers based on like the skimpiness of his outfit.
True. There's actually even a neat thing where he becomes a lot more feminine. Like his body is like gender neutral because he was a dude, but then he gets like a body. He gets a body that's gender neutral. He can make it more female or more male, but he keeps it kind of a more gender neutral. It would be interesting if they ever addressed it, but because it's Japanese and they're really weird about that, they never quite do. But then again, they never quite address it in a wrong, weird way either. It just kind of happens. So,
okay, all right.
I love that this whole segment of TV Diaries is Nick describes a weird fucking show.
You know, I feel like, yeah, last week was the Mighty Ducks.
You know,
I feel like at least some of our listeners are going to be so happy that you're providing us with more anime content.
we could do a segment each week where Nick describes a show, and then Randy and I have to vote without looking it up on the internet whether it's real.
I think we may have just found a new segment.
And
I am down for this.
Like 1 out of every 4 weeks or 3 weeks or something.
Stranger than science fiction.
I think this may have to happen. So this is a good time to remind you that you can support us by going over to patreon.com/tvdudes, throw us $1 an episode. In exchange, we have to keep up with our streaming services, pay for our hosting costs, and you get bonus content each week. This week, we're going to start up Movie Roulette, where we'll challenge the others to watch a movie that we like, but the others haven't seen yet. We also have our $20 showrunner level. So if there are shows you want to throw into the rotation, you can buy into that level and give us a couple of ideas. Just so y'all know, either it is past or it's coming up the anniversary of when my friend Mandy made us watch JoJo, and I believe she is absolutely planning to make us watch more JoJo.
There's more?
There's
like years of this, right?
Yes. Yeah. They just announced a new season. Like season 6 or something is coming to America. So
what season are you guys on? What will
we no. We watched like 6 episodes of season 1. Like that, we're barely even into it. Yeah.
Oh my god, I have such sights to show you.
I feel like you need to yell that entire sentence. At twice the speed.
let's jump over to new business, and let's start off by talking about anime. It's all anime if it's animated, right? It's anime.
Yes.
I think.
Solar Opposites, the anime from Hulu.
We're gonna get punched in the street whenever we can go out in public again.
I could feel someone's hateful eyes on me just even saying that in jest.
It's all right. If I know anime, they will focus it into power that will make a sword or a gun glow and expand before it fires.
What? Last Airbender is like Canadian anime, right?
Right, that's Canadian anime. Yeah.
It's still foreign. It counts.
So, Solar Opposites. This is season 2. This is Justin Roiland without Dan Harmon, and with a few other people doing his like aliens on Earth thing. Nick, I don't know if I know your take on the first season of this.
Oh, I thought we talked about it last week, didn't we?
We went into general. I can remember. I think the general vibe that I have, and I think you and I might have talked about this, as I talked about with a couple of people, is that if it was just about the wall,
yes,
I would be so into this show. But it's also about the aliens, and it feels. Yes, yeah, you and I did talk about. We said it basically felt like every episode is like the TV episode of Rick and Morty.
Yeah, the improv thing. It's like with Justin Roiland without Dan Harmon is like twice the randomness, but half the cleverness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without Roiland, we get Community out of Harmon, but without Harmon, we get this. And this isn't bad, but yeah, it's not quite Rick and Morty.
I'm shocked how good The Wall is, because I will keep watching this show just for The Wall. The Wall is funny. It's like a good premise. It consistently, like, I love the fact that they're hunting a serial killer with the guy that's like the season 5 to 8 writer of Bones. Like, not even the
coordinator on Bones. Yeah,
not even the first couple seasons, like the 5th and 8th. Like,
it's relegated to the joke room. You shut up.
I think that's hilarious, and
they made me care about the Duke.
Yeah, the Duke. Alfred Molina's the Duke is like a 3-dimensional, fully developed character by the end of it.
Even if I die, don't touch my penis. Nobody ever has.
Don't touch my penis.
I don't want to start now.
What's weird is like it's like Les said, it's not that it's a bad show. Like the premises, they do a riff on the lake house, the sort of sending notes into the past, and it's a funny bit, but like it feels like Saturday Night Live. It's like every bit is funny, and then it goes on for 15 more minutes.
Well, the aliens always feel like just funny bits to me, and I don't care about them forward.
Overall.
Like despite feeling like a random goofball every episode, Rick and Morty builds on the characters. Like you watch the marriage fall apart, you watch the relationship change between the kids, you know, and the relationship with Rick change, and then on Solar Opposites, I don't feel that growth the same way. Except in The Wall, and that consequently makes the main characters technically on this show feel like filler to me.
Well, I don't know any of their fucking names, which is probably a problem. But you have the Captain Alien, who is the smart sociopath. You have the dumb character, I forget, like the guy in charge of the weird little blob creature. He's the dumb sociopath. And then there's the small smart sociopath, and then there's the small dumb sociopath in the two kids.
Yes.
Like, there's no difference between any of the... There's 2 characters, but split into 4.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. The kids are like they're clones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all clones of each. Like even the spouse is a clone. I do like the constant running joke of like, oh my God, what is the pupa doing? And them going, you're the pupa specialist.
You're the pupa expert.
Yeah, and like, oh, yeah, okay.
I gotta say that if Community was a show where I was like, I'm just in this for Troy and Abed in the morning, I don't think Community is a good show.
Right.
Like,
that's the thing. Each one of these premises is a solid. Like I look at the episode, like, oh yeah, that was a fun premise, and there's always a few laughs. But it's really only the Wall episodes that get me to go, oh, this is a show I like. Like otherwise, I would probably stop watching it altogether.
I came into season 2 going, I hope they address the Wall again, and that wasn't just a season 1 thing. And like, I mean, I came into the show for season 2 going, I wonder what the Wall bit's going to be. I hope they get into it pretty quick.
I wonder if that is just a grasshopper.
Oh yeah, is it a rogue cricket? Yeah. They make music with their legs, Nick. Who knows what else they can do?
If you compare this to some of the other, like, compare it to say Bob's Burgers, which is just as weird and just about family comedy. But their family comedy works, and it has a spine to it. I
All
think
the characters are distinctly different in that show, though.
Yeah.
They're super, very distinct. You'd never confuse one for the other.
right.
No.
Yeah, I feel like this needs someone in the room to tell Roiland, okay, calm down. We've got 100 ideas on the whiteboard. Let's focus on like 3 of them.
The thing they say about what cover up all the character names in your script and read the lines, and you should be able to tell the difference in these people, so that you don't accidentally write in your own voice the whole time.
Right.
It's the same. I mean, it's a little bit on Rick and Morty too, but yeah, there's that patter, that Roiland dialogue patter, and that's a bit of what we're paying for. But also, it
Yeah.
can go a little far, and I think the trouble here is that like the entire family is doing one bit in one cadence.
Yeah, no. Raphael is cool but rude. Michelangelo's the party dude.
Yes.
So he's got to say that.
Yes. That's how you know.
Bingo. Yeah, we're dealing with a real mind here.
All right, let's jump over to HBO Max's Made for Love, which is another. Do you guys think Cristin Milioti, it's either her or her agent, is like, you got anything weird and sci-fi-y that has me being like a cool as hell character? Because that's what she did. Palm Springs, and then she has, of course, that famous Black Mirror episode. And I feel like she swerved into this sort of weird
Not Black
sci-fi
Mirror,
relationship stuff.
Raven's Mythic Quest.
Well, no, Mythic Quest is the one that Black Mirror. She was the lead
I thought you were talking about the Mythic Quest episode.
No. I'm talking about the Black Mirror episode where Jesse Plemons is the captain.
Oh, that's right.
And she also always seems to be the woman in jeopardy, but then she turns the tables on her captors. Like that seems to be her last few projects, which I'm all for. I love watching Cristin Milioti do this, but it was weird. I saw this a little bit of a sci-fi element to it, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I watched it. It definitely felt like echoes of what I liked about that Black Mirror episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I also felt like the tone of this is all over the place.
It is super dark.
Yeah, I felt like the tone was more consistent than Upload, which is what it most reminded me of.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
It did remind me of that. But I think that's the thing. Is like it wants to be a dark comedy, but I didn't find much of this funny. I found it mostly horrific, and I thought they weren't really playing up the horror of this guy putting a chip in her head. It's like they're dealing with it in a sort of a bank shot way that I thought was interesting. It's interesting, and I may wind up as with like the Apple Plus show that oh man, I just blanked on her name. The Love Life on Apple Plus, which I didn't like at first, and then fell in love with by the end.
With Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick, yes. This may be one of those that like I like at the start, and then as it goes on, I fall in love with it, or it may be one that I fall out of, and I can't tell which way it's going to go.
Did you watch all 3?
Yes.
Okay. This was one where I was glad they dropped all 3, because
Yes.
I am still not utterly in love with it. As if they had the chip, they'd know. But I am glad they dropped all 3, because it deepened it. You needed the first 2 to meet all the players, because you don't meet the bartender and such until I think second episode, really.
Right.
And you need to see her. You don't see the flashbacks and her deal with her dad and shit like that. But then the third episode is that fake documentary, whatever 2020 episode about Made for Love, where you see them on camera together as a couple and her escape. And it's weird, for the amount that I don't like stuff like Casual, that are like sitcoms that are too sad. I love dark comedy sci-fi that's too absurd. And so like I'm really digging this. Like one of the things that deepened it in the third episode for me was when he confronts her, and she doesn't go back with him, or some different spoilers. She doesn't go back with him or anything, but he makes this pitch back to her of like, she's like, I want this fucking chip out of my head, and he's like, I know you don't. Like, I mean, like, not to the degree that you think you do. Like, you're not as mad about this as you think you are. I'm looking at the metrics.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck, that's a weird twist on doing this, of like, no, you're yelling at me, but I'm also looking at your biometrics.
There's the the Billy Magnuson plays a really good sort of creepy, abusive, like emotionally abusive husband type. Like,
How did the idiot from Game Night develop this?
He's so Billy Magnuson is perfect casting for this. I think was he in is it Kimmy Schmidt? Is he who David Cross accidentally becomes?
I think so. Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
in Made for Love, he has that same Patrick Bateman, like, your crazy is glowing and about to burst the skin off of your body. Like, he
Yeah.
looks like a barely kept together Ken doll full of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like one of those aliens from Galaxy Quest.
Yes. Yeah. You guys saw the new Invisible Man, right? With Elizabeth Moss.
Yes.
Yeah.
This reminded me
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that. The sort of like the
Oh, yeah.
sort of sociopathic husband who can present this like picture of like it's like gaslighting again. It's like he's like, no, you were in love with me. What are you talking about? Like what are you even talking? You didn't want to escape. And this whole like him telling her how she feels and that kind of stuff. The fact that he has a chip doesn't make it any less creepy.
Yeah, like, you don't know what you want.
Mhm.
I'm actually did you a favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, like his
Right.
and the hub he lives in, like, no one knows how to get into it. It's an off the grid, hidden fucking virtual reality
Yeah.
cubes.
Yeah.
It's just so weird.
And by the way, the fact that they call it that his company is Gogol, they couldn't have been more clear than what they're doing.
I like I did think it was funny his security guy kicking the
Can't
shit out of
stand back
him,
at all. Yeah.
cutting his fingers off, shooting him. I thought that was funny.
I think that didn't quite resonate with me, partly because I saw that guy do a similar. I loved that guy on Veep, and I love
Mhm.
his sort of persona, and I feel like, oh, I kind of like your Veep guy better. I thought that, oh man, Ray Romano. I love Ray Romano playing weird, quirky dads. I loved this version. This is a very different thing, but I loved him in The Big Sick, playing sort of the quirky dad who would cheat on the wife. I
Yeah.
think here, where his wife died in a plane crash he caused because he was drunk, and now he has a relationship with a sex doll, and everybody in town thinks he's the weird pervert. Like that whole character is almost more interesting to me than anything else in the show.
The casting of it really makes it too.
Yeah.
Makes me want to go watch more of Get Shorty with him and Chris O'Dowd,
Oh,
because
okay. Yeah.
he plays another, just he's so seedy that you are surprised Ray Romano took the part.
Well, it's interesting. Billy Magnuson is also in Get Shorty.
Huh. That makes sense.
There's some interesting. The guy who is the co-creator of this also co-created Maniac, which also had Billy Magnuson in it. And so you can see where some of the crossover happened, where some of the stuff developed.
Mhm.
But the
Mhm.
fact that the guy who did Maniac on Netflix also did this makes a lot of sense to me because this
That
feels
really
fucking
does.
weird.
Yeah. Only nobody pitched Maniac as a comedy, really.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I liked Ray Romano's character as well, although between this and Q Into the Storm, I'm really hoping that sex dolls are not going to be this super common, like, oh, everyone has a sex doll,
Yeah.
right? So that's just a common thing we can keep doing, because I'd like to retract my, it gets a lot better from Q Into the Storm from last week, because it does not.
I have bad news for you about the future, Nick.
Synthetic partner. Nick.
Synthetic partner, I'm
Remember
sorry.
Quibi had that show also with Anna Kendrick and Donald Logue?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, oh, shit, yeah. Oh, that's a new thing. Why is that a
Sex dolls
thing?
is a trend.
Yep.
3 is a trend.
Yep. Oh, shit.
All right, so let's jump over from Made for Love and talk about Hysterical, which I wasn't clear because it says episode 1. I was like, oh, is this going to be like a documentary series? No, it is just a documentary on Hulu about female comedians.
Well, they call it episode 1, but I
Yeah.
cannot possibly imagine the ongoing theme of this.
Episode 1 and it's an hour and a half long. What is this, a Snyder cut?
So this is it's a documentary about female comedians going back to, they've got like Judy Gold is sort of their elder stateswoman, and the Margaret Show, and then they've also got like Sherry Shepherd, Fortune Feimster, Eliza Schlesinger, Lisa Lampanelli, Rachel Feinstein, Nikki Glazer. There's a lot of like big, Kathy Griffin, a lot of big name comedians.
And they drop in some clips of like Elaine Boozler and stuff, and
right,
and some older comedians. I can't remember her last name.
Mom's Mobley, I believe.
Mom's
yeah.
Mobley.
the bit that was actually my favorite bit of this when they show Moms Mobley on like
That
uh
talk show.
the talk show.
Yeah.
It's like a 50s talk show, and she's talking to the guy who's the whitest guy you could possibly imagine. And she's doing her sort of old black lady bit, which was her bit. And she's like, yeah, I was down in the South, and they nicknamed me. They kept calling me Trigger.
They
They're
love
like,
me
hey,
down there.
Trigger, and they love me in it. And then he's like, oh, Trigger, that's interesting. And she's like, yeah, at least I think that's what they were saying.
Oh,
And
she nails that punchline.
Her face when she says that is so
and
good.
his face of like realizing that what he's
Ugh.
been dragged into and that he does not like it was
Yeah,
the funniest thing to me.
He was like, "Oh, you set me up,
She
you son of a
sticks that
bitch."
landing on that joke.
Yeah, it was
and
perfect.
makes him the straight man for it.
The way she just realizes like, "Oh, wait a minute, maybe that's a lot more racist than I
Yeah,
thought."
it's
okay.
beautiful.
Like,
And
Yeah.
and I
Well,
did not realize that she had to do that she figured that out early on workshopping that she
Yeah.
had to dress up as an old lady in order to be able to say those things.
Well, and it recalls Jane Lynch's character in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I
Yes.
wondered if that was a nod to her, basically. That you have to put on this persona in order to
Say
make
this
it in
shit.
comedy at that point. So I thought this was really interesting to watch. Les, I know you have feelings about stand-up comedy.
I
Uh,
really wasn't looking forward to watching this because I'm not enough of a fan of stand-up comedy to want to watch a documentary about stand-up comedy. But
to be
To be
fair, your
fair,
uncles are Statler
yes.
and Waldorf, so
uh,
you didn't know this, listeners, but Les is quarter Muppet.
I am 23andMe came back mostly felt. Uh, what this ended up being though is a documentary of all of these women talking about like doing all the same stuff that all the men do in stand-up and being consistently treated like a gimmick or hey, we'll try it out, who knows. And like
Mhm.
I didn't realize for the longest time that the like women aren't funny thing that like oh my god, you're fucking serious. Like
Yeah, same. I
Like-
thought that was some dumb joke, but
yeah,
it is.
and
People believe it.
I'm sorry that I did not realize how real that was. Because holy crap, and this documentary is great for hearing the sheer fucking volume of consistent stories.
Yeah.
Of some of the funniest women and like, well, we tried a woman a month ago and it didn't work, so no more women. And like,
Did you get to the point where they show the Jerry Lewis
oh
clip?
god, yeah.
Where he's
Yep.
straight up talking about how women can't be funny, and I'm like, and he was older at this point, but still, you're like, what is wrong? How could you say this out loud?
There's one point where they show Lewis say something about like, I don't like watching women do stand-up comedy because I don't want to watch them debase themselves and make fun.
Yeah.
That basically he's standing up for women because he doesn't want to watch them be self-deprecating, which is such a hallmark of stand-up comedy. And then it
Yeah.
literally they cut beautifully to a clip from a Jerry Lewis movie where he's with a female comedian and just bagging on her like a roast.
Uh-huh.
And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, so wait, you can do it, but she can't?
So I found what was interesting in watching this is I found it was very angry. It was also very funny,
Mm-hmm.
but I got uncomfortable at some points in this where I was like, oh man, it's like almost like I felt like this was telling me to go fuck myself the whole time. And there were bits and pieces where they'd say they would generalize about men, which is a natural thing to do in this. But there was a part it's sort of later on, but one of the comedians, I think it was maybe even Rachel Feinstein, but somebody else was talking about how like any woman looks in the mirror and sees she's like she doesn't matter how beautiful she is, she's like, ah, I hate my eyes. And she's like, and every man, no matter how ugly, looks in the mirror and is like, ah, I'm fucking hot. And I'm like, that has not been my experience. And I was
That's
and
not true.
there were
No.
definitely a few points in here where I was like, you guys, this isn't true. Like you're bagging on men, and I think to some extent you're being unfair. And I would get that feeling, that sort of defensive, uncomfortable feeling. And then inevitably 5 minutes later, they show a male comedian saying something like, no, fuck, no, right, men are terrible.
Yeah, I felt the same thing you did, Randy, on that particular joke. I was like, absolutely everyone is insecure. That's a weird take to have. Like, men, I will grant you, are way better at covering it up. Like, we have an inherent confidence having a Y chromosome. But yeah, that whole thing of like, what was it? Norm Macdonald was even saying like, oh, women can't be funny. I was like, oh, Norm, you really want to throw stones here, bud? Exactly how many arenas have you been selling lately? Sorry.
Right, and that's the other thing, it's like, I would see comedians who I generally have found Norm Macdonald pretty funny, I liked him, but then I saw this and I'm like, "Oh, I don't think I like you anymore." In, like, an instant, I'd be like, "Oh, how did you ever say that out loud?" And they during that right after I started getting that feeling of like, I don't know about this. I feel like they're not being fair." They cut to a bit of Bill Burr being like, "Talking about hitting women, sweetheart," and I'm like, "Jesus Christ." You
Yeah,
see what male comedians get away with, and I'm like, "No, you know what? You're right. Men are terrible."
yeah. There's a point where they're talking about like everybody being, well, you know that none of the men think that they don't deserve their spot here or something like that. And
Yeah.
I was like,
Mhm.
the flavor of that is, I'm sure, different. But I guarantee some of the guys are psych.
They have
Some of the
imposter
guys have
syndrome, dude.
have just psychotic confidence. I'm certain.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also, you're in a career field of alcoholics, and I don't think it's because they're all super secure. Uh, but I think it's Lisa Lampanelli or someone's being interviewed about like being on the road,
Mhm.
and that as a female comic you had to go on the road to get any fucking stage time, to get any
Mhm.
better at your craft, but that also put you at a huge risk,
Yeah.
and all the creeps or
Mm-hmm.
things that happen on the road. And she's like, "Oh, did I date any of the male comics? No." And then she's like, I mean, I heard what they'd said about, Jews, gays, blacks, everybody else. I just,
Yeah.
figured what they probably said about me. And I was just thinking, like, is that really how comedy has to work? Like, is it like panning for gold, where like you are going to get some gold, but most of it's going to be river muck? Because I mean,
Yeah.
like, does stand-up comedy genuinely have to sift through a certain volume of Jew and gay jokes to
Yeah.
get gold? That seems
Yeah.
absolutely ludicrous to me, that there's this idea that in order to make good comedy, that woman had to work in a bubble of an industry where we've got to say all of it to hear whether it works or not. And like, no, I'm pretty sure you can blanket disqualify chunks of those jokes without saying them out loud.
I
Right.
also
Well,
thought did you guys get to the Kathy Griffin part?
Not
yeah.
sure if I got quite that far. It was about an hour in.
I thought that the Kathy Griffin stuff was really interesting because they point out basically her, holding up Trump's head and how that canceled her second half of her tour, and it looked like her job she had to apologize, and they're like, "No man would ever have had to do that." And I think it's interesting 'cause she had to come back and she's really good here. But they show a bit where Nikki Glaser and, a few other comedians, I can't remember who all was in that room. Basically, they sent a video to her of, like, how much they loved her and how proud they were of her at the time when she was going through all this. And I think that is sort of the big finale that they land on is that basically the women comedians have started to basically there's enough of them now. They've started to band together and build their own sort of comedy scene where this was what comedy was for the longest time is all these gross guys would get together and make bad jokes at each other and anything goes. It was a very locker room mentality, and they have come up with sort of the feminine version of that. And what that results is them being more empowered and then having a balance of power that they can use to get gigs, to wield influence over the scene. And I think that that is the hopeful upside of all of this.
Yeah, because early on they talk about, when there's only going to be one quote unquote gimmick spot on the bill for 10 minutes for a woman,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
then if you see another woman in comedy, you stab her,
Hmm.
because there's only one fucking there's only 10 minutes. There's I don't know if it's Ilsa Schlesinger or who or I'm saying her name wrong. That says like early, she doesn't name the name, but she's like, early on in my career I was straight up bullied, like almost bullied into
Yeah,
quitting by a
yeah,
famous female comic that she was real thrilled to meet, of like,
yeah,
you're my
yeah,
idol, oh my god,
yeah.
I'm a competitor to you and you're gonna kill me like Jenna on 30 Rock.
Yeah, I thought like what was the story of Margaret Cho was talking about being assaulted in her room,
Mhm.
which I was like, I guess you can make a rape joke funny because I did laugh when she said like, and the really insulting part was that he was half my size. That was insulting.
Right,
What?
how you
And
gonna rape somebody half their, come on now.
I was
Yeah.
I was like, damn, that's just my self esteem is really low on that one. I thought that like the fact that she can joke about it was stunning.
Yeah, Margaret Cho was another one that was fast. Margaret Cho and Judy Gold and Kathy Griffin are the ones I was most interested to watch here because they have become sort of the like elder stateswomen of comedy. They've been at this for 20 or 30 years, and they take no shit anymore, and they're not afraid of spilling tea. And I thought that, especially Judy Gold, they go to her over and over again, and she talks about coming up in like the 80s comedy and what it's like now, and she's been through the fire and come out stronger, and I think that's really interesting. Same with Margaret Cho.
Who's the one that called out Weinstein during her set?
Oh man, that young comedian.
Yeah,
Yes, she was Kelly Bachman. I think was no Jessica Kirson.
she was awesome.
Yeah, that
Like
was amazing.
it just her telling the story of how like the lead up to it of like, oh, should I say something? And her realizing that she was never gonna not say anything. Like, and then how she like just how scary it was at the time of going through it.
I could never have done what she did. I could never do. I'm not.
I would have, but I'm a dude. I like I know that. I was like, you know what? I would have done the same thing, but I would have been safer doing it.
Yeah, I don't think I could have done it. I don't think that being in a room with someone that powerful and knowing that this is my only shot and this is like I'm a young comedian, I don't know that I would have had the balls to do it. I thought it was super impressive. And then people are booing her and she keeps going and like
Hmm.
to keep at it, like it was impressive to watch and also funny as hell.
Yeah, she went at it until the boo people left, and then the women in the audience started clapping, and
Yeah.
it's just a great story.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. So this was really enjoyable. It's it honestly felt a little long for an hour and a half. Like I felt like I was watching. If they get a lot of content in there, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, I they should have broken this into 3 episodes.
Yeah, it would have been a great little miniseries.
Also,
Actually,
just documentary pointer. It's so tempting to open with Webster's definitions, but it
yes,
sucks at a wedding toast, and it sucks in a
yes.
documentary.
Oh, those interstitials are
Like
cringeworthy every
it's
time.
it's like you felt the compulsive need to make a PowerPoint slide, but you didn't need one here.
Yeah, yeah. Your stories are being told. You don't need to hit us over the head with it. I agree about that.
Yeah, I like the hysterical one, which it was like a term for being hilarious and also a woman being crazy. I'm like,
That
okay, that makes sense.
that made sense,
Yeah,
but picking that word for the title is also why I don't see how this could be like they can't do a next one about male comedians or anything because like they
right,
picked a title that is very much uh, a word that means funny now, but was originally meant to be like woman craziness, uh,
right.
Hmm.
like your womb is acting up.
The other thing I would have liked to have seen more of if they'd done this as a series, I would have loved more of Moms Mabley and
Hmm.
Phyllis Diller and all the comedians who we didn't really see except in just like little flashes of here were the comedians from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. We didn't talk to them. Like there's like 1 second of Marshall Warfield, I think. Like I would have loved a little more history before we got into the modern day of comedy.
Though if people want to hear 20 minutes of conversation with Marshall Warfield, TV dudes can absolutely supply that.
Yes.
Because I talked to her a couple of years ago on the anniversary of Harry Anderson's death.
And he only mansplained a little.
Good plug. Good plug, Les. Good plug. All right, guys, we've had our regular weekly TV talk here.
All right,
Let's
Randy, fine.
let's jump in about talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier again.
I love that that's our dessert. Like,
It's dessert.
That's our high calorie, not like, but somehow also substantive dessert.
So I'm curious. I've got a couple friends on my feed who are well informed. One of them's a comic book writer, like well informed people who are just not feeling the show. They're like, it's fine. And I'm like,
We have
I
a
love
well-informed
this.
TV writer friend who thought Ted Lasso was not funny. Like weird things happen.
Yeah, I adore this show. And this episode, yet more of the I didn't know you were going to do that. Perfect, a perfect take on two characters we haven't seen explored a little bit better here than they were in the movies. Like, I thought this was another fantastic episode.
I loved it. I think I texted our text thread when it was like when I realized what they were gonna do this episode, the breakout, the whole like, well, we can't do anything, so we're just gonna throw our hat in with some folks who can't, like the way they brought all of it together, and I realized what they were gonna do, and I was just clapping my hands watching the screen, like, holy fuck, this is gonna be wonderful.
Are you talking about breaking Zemo out? Well, it's a hypothetical, but also don't be mad.
I was dying. Like the whole shtick together just keeps getting better and better. Like I love the dynamic between Bucky and Sam anyway, but their dynamic then with Zemo is really great. And
am I supposed to like Zemo as much as I'm liking Zemo?
I probably not.
They've done a really interesting thing here. Yeah, Zemo is a likable. I mean, yes, he murdered T'Chaka and numerous other people. Like, he's a bad man, and we know he's a bad man.
But I keep forgetting, Randy.
But he's so good at explaining why he's doing what he's doing. That you're like, oh, that makes sense. And then you're like, wait a minute, no, it doesn't. That's wrong.
Yeah.
I like that they've taken away the like hate him because he's a straight up Nazi. Like
yeah,
I don't hate. He's not Hydra.
No,
he does not want the super soldier serum out anymore. That he thinks it's like the Lex Luthor argument. Like, no, I want to kill this. You know, I want to kill Zod because he's a Kryptonian on the planet, not because he's doing destructive things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Our interests align on this one.
Momentarily.
They're talking about Trouble Man or something in
maybe the best scene of the episode.
I've seen that book. It was Steve's when he came out of the ice. I told him about Trouble Man. He wrote it in that book. Did you hear it? What'd you think?
I like 40s music, so...
You didn't like it?
I liked it.
It is a masterpiece, James. Complete, comprehensive. It captures the African-American experience.
He's out of line, but he's right.
But he's not. I love that of like,
yeah, what the fuck,
stop
Bucky?
helping me.
Yeah, we've all been in this situation. We've all argued online where you start agreeing with, you're like, God damn it, I don't want to be arguing with my friend here, but this rando person who I hate made a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're like you don't want to be the guy. You want to be like, oh man, this guy's terrible. I don't want to agree with him, but you're my friend, and you're saying you only like Marvin Gaye? No, he's right, and you're wrong.
Yeah. You're wrong.
Yeah,
I like him.
Also, the reveal that was the same notebook. That's Cap's notebook. Made me. There is something in every episode that makes me squee with delight, and that was one of them this time.
That's a great texture. That's great.
Seeing Madripoor was cool.
Oh yeah, cyberpunk Madripoor.
Though I did have a moment of like, they alternated scenes. It was like, you are so wanted you can barely run out of this building and get up the street. Then you are fine. Then you are so wanted you can barely get out of this and into this next thing. Then you go into a bar and have no problem.
Yep.
Well, they go into the shipping container from every action movie for the last 10 years.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And the Sharon Carter, I love that. Like, okay, I'll come back, but you gotta fucking write me a character.
I love that. Okay, so the first episode they do the helicopter thing. Sam runs through the helicopters and all that shit. Second episode, truck top fight.
Yep.
With the shield throw in and all of that. Third episode, Sharon. That's it.
Sharon going all John Wick on some
fucking
motherfuckers.
Fight. Like, she is all. I realized I was like, holy crap! This episode's quote unquote set piece fight is all entirely given to Sharon Carter. It's like, that is wonderful.
I love that she comes in and is like, okay, guys, we're really out of time because I don't have a cyborg arm or fucking flying wings, so I'm like doing a lot of shit out here. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also. Sharon becoming the sort of embittered spy who came in from the cold, I thought that was a great take for the character. I really liked it.
Like, nope, I'm sorry. The last time I talked to you, I am still here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to go home.
I really loved all of that. I think it's interesting that that Battlestar and Cap were barely in this episode. Like, we jumped away from them.
Yeah, well, they're in the mindset of like they're not getting shit done on their end, so they're actually going to follow.
Just gonna wait for Sam and
them
to fuck something up.
And they're already on the what was it? The line he had of like he had a quick thing of like, do you know who the fuck I am? And I was like, Cap would never say that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
But I can and like, damn them for making me sympathize with John Walker as a character. But I get the like, I'm a normal soldier I'm not a 50s Boy Scout that was frozen in ice and woken up in the 2000s, guys.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
I
no.
am a
This is
modern soldier who is getting real tired of being told that I'm supposed to be the greatest Boy Scout ever and live up to Steve. Like, quit spitting in my fucking face like I gotta prove, like I could get it, but at the same time, you can't say that, dude.
Well, he also goes like, "Hey, if we get results, do you really think they'll care how we get them?" And I was
Cap
like,
would have never
here we go.
Cap would never say that. Yeah, yeah. Also, the Flag Smashers. They spend this. We're watching them, and we're getting this like this scene with her maybe adoptive mom, and they're stealing supplies from the GRC that's hoarding it, and we're like, oh, should I be rooting for the Flag Smashers? Are they the good
Right.
guys? And then she murders a bunch of people,
like an embassy of people.
Even
Yeah.
the guy with him was like, "Whoa, what the fuck?"
and she's
like,
like, that's the
It's the
only
only
language they're
yeah.
going to understand. And we're like, oh, okay,
Nope.
you've done it. You've managed to make her even if we agree with her aims, her methods are bad. And I think that's
Which is
that's
kind of
really
where they
well
leave.
done.
It's also kind of where they've got me with Zemo. Like,
Yeah.
I don't disagree with what you're trying to do, buddy, but you're doing it so wrong.
By the way, how did they not know that Zemo was going to execute the guy responsible for making the super soldier? I knew that the second they met him.
yeah.
They just didn't know he had a gun right there. Like, I
Oh
loved,
yeah.
but I loved Zemo's immediate, like, I'm in a secret lab in the back of a shipping container through a secret staircase. I bet there is a pistol under
Yeah.
one of these lab tables somewhere.
Yep.
He just and he's like in the background of the scene for like 3 minutes, like fishing around. I was just watching it going, oh, that's so beautiful.
Oh, that's a good catch.
And
I hadn't
then
noticed that.
As soon as the moment, I mean, literally as soon as the moment presented itself, he shot the dude.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as he became like, "Oh, you're no longer useful," like the second he was expendable. And I love Zemo's like mask and him kicking ass in the later scene when Falcon and Bucky can't seem to agree on even a tactical plan of going left or right.
Once again, that mask looks great. I
love it.
Oh, and the furred collar, like
God
they
damn,
nailed
looks
it.
so good.
I did not think that. I thought Zemo was going to be gone. I thought basically once that explosion happened, that Zemo was going to flee, and he was all. I mean, he was like, "Oh, we let him out, and he's gone." But no, he came back for them. So
yeah, which honestly should freak them out more, because like, shit, that means that we are definitely in your plan.
Yeah,
you didn't come back to help our plan.
Zemo doesn't have underlings. You guys realize Zemo, even in Civil War, he's a self-operator. He does all this shit himself.
Yeah.
So he really needs a cyborg arm Winter Soldier and a guy that can fly to back him up on fighting like 8 Flag Smashers.
The whole like having to fake it in the bar and Sam is
using the Winter Soldier as a chip. Like, hell, I'll give you the Winter Soldier and the codes to activate him.
Yeah.
Like, that was real smart.
Yeah. This is I can't wait. I'm sad that we're halfway through. I want this as a weekly series. Like WandaVision I was good with and I loved it. And but I was happy to see it come to an end. I want this every week. This is my rare exception. I want 22 episodes of this. I want so much more of this.
I don't understand how WandaVision luxuriates in 8 episodes where the first 3 like barely add up to starting to kick off the weirdness, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier 6.
Yeah.
And I get it. Maybe it's more expensive. Like these stunts seem fucking nuts. But
I bet it's expensive.
I think also the pacing is actually we're halfway through and it feels like, I feel like if this was an episode longer, we might feel a drag. Like,
yeah, maybe so.
As we're clipping, and it's really good.
Yeah. This is absolutely the first thing I want. Like the first time the moment I get a chance to watch it, I'm watching it. I'm so hyped for this show right now.
3:00 in the morning when it drops. Yep. I'm there.
2:00 here in Texas, thankfully. All right. Well, I've got to work early this week, so I don't know if I'm gonna. Oh hell yes, I am.
Yeah, what are you saying, Randy? You absolutely do it.
Thank you, Les. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our patrons. And reminder, you can go over to patreon.com/tvdudes, throw us that buck an episode, listen to hundreds of hours of extra content. And we're going to go record that right now. And until that time,
TV Dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.